Welcome to another presentation from the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.
Hey guys, I'm Alexis and I'm a super mentor here at AMP. Today's Ask a Super Mentor question is, how did you choose your major and do you feel like it prepared you well for your next education step? So I'm actually going to pass this question to my former roommate and current Doctor of Physical Therapy student, Abby, here to start. Abby, you want to go ahead and go for this question?
Sure. So I chose my undergrad major a little bit differently than I feel like some people did that I went to undergrad with. So since a really young age, I decided that I wanted to be a physical therapist just based off of some experiences that I had. But as I went through high school and was deciding where to go and what to focus on, I realized that I actually didn't know a lot about the nitty-gritty of physical therapy. And I hadn't really taken the time to explore other options, either in the medical field or outside of the medical field. So I was really hesitant to tie myself down to an undergrad degree that could only lead into a physical therapy degree. So I decided to do something a little bit more broad, and I went with a biology degree. And when I started school, I was also a Spanish minor for the reason of being able to communicate with more people. But that didn't really work out. So I also ended up choosing a leadership studies minor because I realized that no matter what role you go into after college, you're going to have to lead people. And in this case, a lot of times patients. You're going to have to be able to kind of guide them and help them change their thought process about their health and disease and pain and all those things. So I don't really have an undergrad major that really obviously translates into physical therapy, but I think it still gave me a really good background in thinking scientifically and thinking outside of the box when it comes to the human body and how that relates to our environment. And even though I took a whole semester of classes about fish, I still learned a lot about, how to think inquisitively, how to look at something and say, this doesn't seem right. What could the correct answer be? And then, even though a leadership minor doesn't seem to have anything to do with a medical degree or scientific thinking, it really taught me how to think about how other people think and what motivates them and what gets them down and what you need to do to help them accomplish their goals. So that is how I chose my undergrad major, a little bit unconventional, but it got me to where I want to be. And I think it served me really well.
That's a great answer. And, I actually kind of went about a similar route, that idea of wanting something a bit broader just in case. I will say yours sounds very well thought out. I feel like mine was relatively impulsive. So I was I totally remember this day too. So I was originally thinking biology, because that's kind of the standard pre-medical school route is to do biology, which makes sense. Biology is very human. Humans are a product of biology, so that makes sense. So back in high school, I worked at Culver's. Shout out to Culver's, great job, loved it. And I remember there was this time frame senior year where I slipped on a piece of cardboard in the freezer while carrying a 40-pound box of cookie dough. And instead of being like, wow, I almost just, face planted the freezer door and broke my nose, my first thought was, I wonder what force I would have hit the door with, because at the time I was taking physics. So I totally remember this, went in that Monday, and I was joking about this with my physics teacher. And she was like, well, you can do whatever you want for undergrad. Have you thought about majoring in physics? And I was like, well, kind of, but I'm, a bit worried about the math involved. And she was like, you got it. And I went, okay, cool. I'm going to major in physics. So I went home that day and it was like, hey, mom, I'm majoring in physics now. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be this really awesome, cool toys, access to cool toys, which that was true. And also the fact that the basis of physics is solving problems, which I would also argue is a major component of being a physician, is solving problems. Abby, like you said, analyzing things and, you know, pulling out when something doesn't seem right. And it also helps that we are all part of the universe. The same laws that govern the universe also govern the systems inside us. So by understanding the broader universe and understanding the laws that understand the universe, it makes it a lot easier to understand the systems inside us. So that's kind of a cool side effect. I think the biggest thing I've learned being a first-year medical student, things come at you really fast. Things change rapidly. You're thrown into situations that are brand new, and I don't know if it's the same for physical therapy, but you're often thrown into these situations and taught to learn on the fly, or you have to learn on the fly. And, you know, it doesn't always go well the first time. But physics is complex enough that I would say 9 times out of 10, I didn't understand in my advanced classes, I didn't understand the topic right away at first pass. It took me a couple passes. And being uncomfortable, getting over the uncomfortableness of that learning curve and embracing that learning curve and go, all right, you know, we'll learn it eventually. And just enjoying that state of learning, I think was honestly like my biggest takeaway from majoring in physics in undergrad, and also the cool toys.
Yeah, the cool toys were really where it's at. I got that benefit because I lived with you.
That's true. Yeah, and I would just
to get the benefit of the cool toys.
Yeah, because I would just, you know, show up with the like fun lasers or partially built robots or weird 3D printed marshmallow shooters. But yeah, it was a good time.
It was a good time.
Well, awesome, Abby. Thanks for letting me borrow you for Ask a Super Mentor question once again. Awesome. Definitely some great insight. I think, like, you know, one of the takeaways here is we both kind of chose paths that are considered unconventional for what our next step in education is. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, one thing we talk about in PT school is not learning every single little detail, but learning the guiding principles. And I think the same thing applies here, is as long as you major in something that teaches you the same guiding principles that you're going to use throughout your career, such as communication or, you know, creative thinking or thinking through a process from start to end, then really you're going to be successful wherever you go. Your major doesn't matter as much as doing something that's going to teach you how to think the way you need to think.
That's some great advice. I love it. Well, I think that's all for this session of Ask a Super Mentor. Stay posted for our next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
This has been a presentation of the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.